Welcome back to the channel. Survivors Grounded 2 just launched, and in today's video we're going to be diving into a beginner guide, starter guide, basically things that I wish I knew when diving into the game for the very first time. Alrighty, so starting things off here, let's talk about some in-game settings and options when it comes to the UI that I'm sure every player is going to want to tweak and potentially even turn on or off. Alright, the first one for me that I think is a big one, and that is the player distance. By default this was off for me, but I really recommend turning this on for everybody because it does not only show you the name plate for any of your friends, that are playing with you in the world, but it also shows you the distance in meters between you and that player. The next one up that we have, and that's going to be if you scroll down, we have the enable crossplay feature. Sorry, you can't see because my camera's here, but the very bottom one is the enable crossplay. If you guys are looking to play with other people on different platforms, this has to be enabled when you start up the world. Next up here that I recommend checking out brings us to the display settings. We have the depth of field blur. The further things get from you, you'll be able to either not see them at all, they'll be completely blurred out, they'll be obscure. You basically can only focus for a short distance in front of you. But for me, I didn't like the blur, so I went ahead and turned it on low. Again, the next one here brings us to the motion blur, but I do always turn motion blur off in every single game that I play. Here you can also adjust your field of view down at the bottom. Again, you can't see this because of my camera, but you can turn this up if you guys do like to play on a higher field of view. And then lastly here, we have the gamma settings. So you can see the gamma here is currently set to 100. Now, by default, I believe it's on 50. However, an easy, quick cheat or hack, I should say, is just to bump up the gamma at nighttime to 100%. And then when it comes daytime, you can go ahead and bump it back down to 50 and then just play like that. It does actually help out tremendously. So just keep that in mind. Alrighty, next up brings us to the Omni Tool. During the tutorial, basically, it'll walk you through. You'll get to this bunker and you'll be able to claim your Omni Tool, as you can see here, off the wall. Now, when you pick up this Omni Tool, it's important to understand basically that in Grounded 2, they got rid of the axe, the wrench, the hammer, basically all of the normal crafting tools that you would have had on your hotbar down at the bottom, your 1 through 8, are no longer there anymore. Instead, they've been all forged into one individual tool called the Omni Tool. And if you look in your inventory, there is no way to see that Omni Tool. You can't see it. There's no place to find it. There's nothing. Now, this confused a lot of people because when you pick up the Omni Tool, essentially what happens is anything that requires you to use the Omni Tool, okay, is actually automatically swapped to. So if that makes any sense, if I head over here really quick, let's say these stalks, okay, you can see it says press E to chop. Well, I don't have an axe equipped, I'm just holding a torch, but if I go ahead and press E, it pulls out my Omni Tool and it goes ahead and actually chops those down. Same thing goes for something like this pebble here, right? This rock. You can see now that it says bust instead of chop. So this is essentially the hammer tool, but it's still the Omni Tool. If I go ahead and press E, the Omni Tool will swap, put the blade back in, and then I actually use it like a hammer would to smash up that rock. So again, utilizing this Omni Tool is just automatic. You don't get to pull it out. You don't get to do anything as far as like selecting it or picking and choosing exactly what it does. It just automatically will engage on whatever tool it needs to be at that moment. The same thing goes for when you run back into this bunker where you pick up your Omni Tool. You head back here. Once you do, you will unlock this Ranger Station. From here, you've got 3 different options. You have the Science Shop, you have the Omni Tool, and then you have the Ranger Challenges. If you go into the Omni Tool, this is going to be all of the upgrades you have for the Omni Tool. So initially, you only have the chop option, I believe, and you only have, only the chop option. Eventually, you'll unlock the hammer option, which will allow you to smash things, and then eventually you'll unlock the wrench, and then also the shovel option. So it's basically the same tool, just converts to all of those. You also can do all of your upgrades. You can see what is required to do each one of those upgrades, and you can see how many upgrades you have for each one of those tool types here for the Omni Tool. Now, diving into the next thing here, this one, the game, in my opinion, doesn't do a good job explaining, or if it did, I must have missed it completely. But it's going to help you out a lot. When you press X, you can actually look at insects within a close range. Actually, hold on one second. We got to fight this little mite really quick. So pressing X on your keyboard will bring you to this little window here. When you look at an insect for the very first time, you can see these question marks, okay? If you happen to look at them for a second, you press E on them, it'll actually learn basically what that creature is. If you then look at that creature again, you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, it actually will tell you their weaknesses, it'll tell you their resistances, and it will tell you how many of that creature that you have already killed. We can see the red soldier ant. Even though this one has a saddle on it, it's my personal mount. We can see his weakness is against stabbing damage and spicy damage, which is related to the mage. And then we also have resistances, which is slashing. So utilizing anything with slashing damage, it'll take less damage from that. And then also its weak points are its eyes, by stabbing its eyes. And I have killed 18 of the soldier ant. But again, really awesome, solid tip here. I can't recommend enough for you to scan every single creature, especially when it comes to going into like a boss fight or a creature type that you've never fought up against, to see what exactly is the best weapons to use for the specific damage to do the most damage on whatever that enemy is. And now, speaking of scanning things, that brings me into the next one. When it comes to this bunker, another thing that you guys need to make sure you are doing all of the time, that I cannot stress enough, actually brings us to the resource analyzer. In the analyzer here, this will show your inventory. An item will be scannable or researchable, I guess I should say, if it has a little blue notification icon on there. You can go ahead and click on that individual item, and then you can go ahead and click spacebar to then analyze it. And once you analyze that item, as you guys can see here on the screen, you learn a lot more blueprints. This is essentially how you learn new recipes inside of the game, is by analyzing new materials that you've never seen or had before. Keep in mind, on the right-hand side, the analyzer will have charges. Now, for the current one at the beginning of the game, we can only research 4 different items. After you researched all 4 of those, it will have a cooldown timer. You'll see the little cooldown timer of when you can then, it'll reset, so then you can, analyze more things. So again, super handy dandy feature. You want to make sure you are analyzing every single thing that you pick up and find, because like I said, it's going to unlock a ton of resources. Now, another huge tip when it comes to early game for Grounded 2, the little white mushrooms that you can see here, you also will gather a handful of these very easy and conveniently at the very first spawn point in the game. When you are making your way out of the lab, there's going to be a bunch of different mushrooms that you'll be able to uncover in like that first or second room. All of those little white mushrooms, I would highly recommend picking them all up, especially, like I said, early game, because you're never going to know when you are in a pinch and you need some food. And these mushrooms have no penalty. When you go into the inventory here, you can actually, it says snack on the left hand side, you can go ahead and actually press F on them, but you can see in the bottom left you have a food meter, and that food meter, if it gets too low, you will actually die, at least on medium and hard mode. And then the same thing goes for your thirst meter. Once it gets super low, it will start to tick down, and then you'll eventually take damage and you will die if you do not replenish it. Now, the second thing to note is actually going to be cooking in the game. It is a game changer when it comes to cooking items versus eating raw items or eating low-grade items like mushrooms. So to give you an example here, I just killed that weeble. We go ahead and place a roasting pit or a spit, and then I'm going to go ahead and access this. We can click on a couple of these different items and let them roast and cook. You can see here that you can nab the items off of the campfire as soon as it gets done. Now that we've done that, our Weeble raw meat has now turned into Weevil roast. So you can see here it is edible, provides nourishment to satiate hunger, and then we also have trickle regen. So again, originally we didn't have that, right? The mushrooms themselves, if you look over here, is just a snack, provides nourishment here just like the other one does, but this one also will now start your health regeneration. And naturally, as you go through the game, obviously, and you craft and cook higher tier items, it's going to also provide additional benefits, not just for like health regen, but you're going to get things that are going to be massively, nourishing to your body to increase that. It might increase your health pool temporarily. It might increase your stamina pool or your stamina regen, or maybe even like your poison resistance, for instance. You name it, it's going to be way better to then cook your food and raw items versus eating them just simply raw as soon as you find them. And now, speaking of needing a resource, you can see in the bottom left-hand side, we are shy on water. You can see that we are deadly low here, almost going to be taking some damage, if not die, if we do not find water. Early game, one of the easiest ways to do this are finding the big water dew droplets that are going to be on plants. you can see here in the top left-hand side, we've got this big water drop up there on the top. Now, you can probably shoot it down. You can potentially throw a spear, but let's say you don't have any of those items yet, all right? One of the easiest ways to do this is not actually, parkour your way up on top of that leaf, which you could absolutely try to do. But an easier way to do this is actually to just hit the base of the leaf. So it doesn't matter what you hit it with, you can hit it with anything, and it will drop that water dew droplet for you. Run up to it like this, go ahead and press E, and it will slurp it, and then you can see in the bottom left-hand side now, our water meter is now halfway full. Now, diving into the next tip, that brings us to the anthills, or like these mini dungeon areas, if you will. Anyways, a really good solid tip is to press B on your keyboard, and you're going to want to build these lean to options. And once you go ahead and build the item, one of the really good tips to do is actually to access it and then press R to reset your spawn point to that lean to. Now, essentially what will happen is if you go and venture inside and you do happen to die, you will then go ahead and respawn right outside versus respawning all the way back at your base and then having to run all the way back into the dungeon. And next up here, guys, we have the trusty steed inside of the game. The very first mount that you're actually going to come across is the red soldier ant. The storyline will kind of walk you through again with the tutorial of how exactly to unlock the hatchery that you see over here. Then you're going to go to like a colony, basically steal the egg that is required, wait for the time after putting in the resources, and then you will eventually get yourself your very first buggy. Now, these guys are absolutely insane. Not only do they move super duper fast, right, making travel way quicker than what it was before, you can utilize them to attack. So again, various things. Keep in mind that your buggy does have health. If you're playing on the easiest tier or the medium tier in the game, if your buggy does die, you can either help pick it back up off the ground like in a second wind, if you will, kind of like when you die or when you drop down and then your friends can revive you, or if it does fully die all the way, you can then respawn it back after the cooldown hop happens here on your hatchery. Otherwise, the really cool features about this thing, besides using it to attack or to traverse, is you've also got an inventory space, and a massive inventory space at that. You can go ahead and place items on your ant, and then it will be there available for you whenever. And lastly, another thing that makes the red ant very strong, you're actually able to pick up and gather resources on the ant. Because the ant can hold way more items than you can yourself as far as building materials. You can see on the left-hand side here, we have a massive stack of these leaf planks that we could not pick up this many otherwise. I believe it's either 4 or 5 max for your individual character, at least starting off in the game, which again is a huge quality of life feature when it comes to building and placing things in the game. You're able to massively gather items and build items way faster than what you normally could do without having a worker ant. And there you go, survivors. That's going to be the beginner's guide and things I wish I knew for diving into Grounded 2 for the very first time. As always, guys, if you have any additional things to add here that you think beginners and starters need to know for Grounded 2, drop them down below in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe here on this channel if you guys did enjoy this video for more Grounded 2 content. With that being said, as always, guys, I'll see ya on the next one.